For my family, the Christmas season officially begins the Friday after Thanksgiving. It's a sacred tradition. We haul the dusty boxes down from the attic, blast holiday music, and untangle what feels like miles of lights. The goal isn't just to decorate a house, it's to build a fortress of joy, a beacon of cheer for my two kids, 8-year-old Mia and 6-year-old Leo. Their faces, pressed against the cold window pane as the first lights flicker on, are the real magic of the season. Unfortunately, our neighborhood, the idyllic-sounding Chestnut Ridge, had its own commander-in-chief of Christmas cheer, and her vision was starkly different from mine. Her name was Eleanor, and she was the long-standing chairperson of the HOA's powerful aesthetic committee. Eleanor's philosophy on holiday decorating could be summed up in 2 words: tasteful uniformity. In her world, Christmas was an elegant affair of exclusively warm white lights, perfectly symmetrical wreaths with identical red bows, and absolutely, under no circumstances, anything whimsical, colorful, or heaven forbid inflatable. Her own house was a testament to this creed, looking less like a home celebrating a joyous holiday and more like a high-end department store's minimalist winter display. I was well aware of her reputation. Before ever plugging in a single bulb, I had done my homework. I had read the Chestnut Ridge HOA covenants, which were surprisingly lenient on the topic. Article 14, seasonal displays, stated only 2 things with clarity. 1, decorations may be erected no earlier than the day after Thanksgiving, and 2, all decorations must be removed by January 15th. There was, however, a third, more insidious clause, a single sentence that gave Eleanor all the power she needed. All displays must be tasteful and harmonious with the community's overall aesthetic. It was a subjective trap, and I was about to walk right into it. Our display was, by my standards, wonderfully festive. We didn't go full Griswold, but we embraced color. Vibrant, multicolored LED lights traced the roofline. Cheerful plastic candy canes lined the walkway. And in the center of the lawn, the kids' favorite piece, a 6-foot-tall, happy, waving, inflatable snowman. It wasn't an army of characters, just one friendly, puffy ambassador of holiday cheer. We were well within the allowed timeline, and the kids were ecstatic. 2 days after we finished, my stand began. I was on a ladder, adjusting a string of lights, when Eleanor's crisp voice drifted up from the sidewalk. "That's certainly a bold choice of color, Greg," she said. She wasn't looking at me, but at my house, her head tilted as if examining a particularly offensive piece of modern art. "The kids love it," I said with a cheerful smile. "Merry Christmas, Eleanor." "Indeed," she replied, the word carrying the warmth of a glacier. "We on the committee find that a more classic, uniform palette of warm white lights best preserves the harmonious aesthetic of Chestnut Ridge. Just something to keep in mind." She gave a curt nod and continued on her walk, leaving her disapproval hanging in the air. A week later, the first official salvo arrived in my email inbox. It was a courtesy notice of violation from the Aesthetic Committee. It cited the tasteful and harmonious clause and vaguely referenced my display's overly vibrant color scheme and the inclusion of a large inflatable figure. It politely requested that I rectify the display to better align with community standards. I knew this was a test. If I took down the colored lights or unplugged the snowman, she would own me. I wrote a polite email back to the entire HOA board. "Dear board members," I wrote, "thank you for the notice. While I appreciate the committee's perspective, the term tasteful is entirely subjective. My family's display is a joyful and traditional expression of the holiday season and violates no specific written rule in our covenants regarding color or type of decoration. As such, we will not be making any changes at this time." The response was a second notice, this one delivered by certified mail. The tone was no longer courteous. It came with a 100 fine for failure to comply, and it included a new, astonishing complaint. Furthermore, it read, "Community standards dictate that all non-essential holiday elements, particularly large inflatable figures, should be removed by December 26th to maintain a tidy appearance for the New Year holiday." I read that sentence 3 times. I grabbed my copy of the CCRs and searched the entire document. The December 26th date didn't exist. It was a complete fabrication. Eleanor, having failed to win on the subjective taste argument, had simply invented a new rule and tried to pass it off as an established standard. This was no longer about a snowman. This was about a homeowners association, led by one power-tripping individual, making up rules and issuing fines based on personal whim. My stand was no longer just about my family's Christmas joy. It was about defending myself and my neighbors from tyrannical overreach. I refused to pay the fine. I sent another letter to the board, this time quoting the January 15th takedown date directly from the bylaws and asking them to clarify where the December 26th standard was documented. Christmas came and went. My snowman remained cheerfully inflated. On December 27th, I received another notice informing me my fine was now $200 and that I was being assessed an additional $25 per day. It also summoned me to a formal hearing in the first week of January. I spent New Year's weekend preparing for my hearing. I wasn't just going to defend myself, I was going to dismantle their entire case. I put together a presentation. First, I had the bylaws, with the actual rules highlighted. Second, I had my correspondence. Third, I had my secret weapon. For 2 evenings, I took a walk after dark with my phone, and I photographed nearly every decorated house in our 200-home subdivision. The night of the hearing, the clubhouse meeting room felt like a courtroom. The 5 board members sat at the front. Eleanor sat with them, a thick folder in front of her, the very picture of smug authority. She presented her case first, showing photos of my house. She used words like garish, chaotic, and tacky. She spoke of the inflatable snowman as if it were a mortal insult to the neighborhood. She then presented her fabricated December 26th takedown rule as a long-standing, unwritten community standard that I had flagrantly violated. When it was my turn, I walked to the podium and plugged my laptop into the projector. "Good evening," I said, my voice calm and clear. "I'm Greg, and I'm here because I believe the Aesthetic Committee has fined my family based not on our community's actual rules, but on the personal taste of its chairperson, and on at least one rule that she appears to have invented." A murmur went through the room. I clicked to my first slide. On the screen, in huge letters, was the text from Article 14. All decorations must be removed by January 15th. "I'd like to ask the board a direct question," I said. "Is there any amendment, addendum, or other official document in this HOA's history that has ever changed this date?" The board president looked uncomfortable. "No," he admitted. "The official date is January 15th. "Thank you," I said. "So we can all agree that the demand to remove decorations by December 26th is not based on any actual rule. Let's set that aside and discuss the subjective matter of tastefulness." I started my slideshow. I took a walk through our lovely neighborhood over the past few nights to see for myself what the community aesthetic truly is. I'd like to share what I found. I clicked through the photos. A house with blue and white icicle lights. A house with a giant light-up reindeer on the roof. A house with a projector displaying swirling snowflakes. A house with Disney characters on the lawn. A house with a life-size Santa in a sleigh. And then, photo after photo of houses with colorful, vibrant, multicolored LED lights. And at least 5 other houses with inflatable Figursa, polar bear, a Santa, even a large inflatable Snoopy. With each click, Eleanor sank lower in her chair. I was using photographic evidence to obliterate her argument. "As you can see," I said, arriving at my final slide, which showed a collage of a dozen homes, "the harmony of Chestnut Ridge at Christmas time is not one of uniformity, but of diversity. It is a harmony of joyful individual expression." To claim that my display, with its colored lights and a single snowman, is uniquely untasteful while ignoring all of these other wonderful displays is, by definition, selective and arbitrary enforcement. You cannot fine one homeowner for something you allow dozens of others to do. I turned off the projector. My family's Christmas decorations bring us joy and they violate no written rule of this community. These fines are baseless. I respectfully ask that you dismiss them in their entirety. I sat down. The silence in the room was deafening. The board members were looking at each other, then at Eleanor. Her case was in tatters. I had proven she had invented a rule and was applying another one selectively. They had no legal ground to stand on. The president called for a vote. It was a swift, unanimous decision to dismiss all fines and close the violation. Eleanor sat in stony silence, her face a mask of cold fury. She had been publicly defeated by facts and a slideshow. After the meeting, 2 of my neighbors approached me in the parking lot. "That was amazing," one of them said. "She's been sending notices about our blue lights for 3 years. You stood up for all of us. I left my decorations up until January 14th, not out of spite, but as a matter of principle. The snowman waved cheerfully from my lawn until the very end. The following December, something wonderful happened. The neighborhood seemed brighter. There were more colored lights. A few more inflatables popped up. My small stand had, it seemed, given others the courage to decorate their homes with the kind of joy they wanted, not the kind Eleanor dictated. My kids are already planning this year's display. We might even add an inflatable penguin to give the snowman a friend. And I'll put them up the day after Thanksgiving, knowing that my family's joy is not subject to a committee's approval and that sometimes taking a stand is the most festive decoration of all.